what are you grateful for as far as what I needed to do better with and did do better with?
I don't know that at the time I could pinpoint what you needed to do better, but in hindsight, I think since it's 50-50, that you could say, I felt like you were not stepping into your leadership role, I guess. And so, and that's kind of what I was pushing for in a not very healthy way. And because I couldn't even articulate what it was, And so I think you helped me figure out that that's kind of what it was. And then you just started really, owning it and stepping into it more. And so I think that's, was super helpful for me to feel like, to better understand what was mine to own and what wasn't a little bit, instead of trying to own everything and being frustrated.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about, my leadership in this marriage. I know we kind of had some time last night where we talked about it some. And, so it's funny that you bring up the idea of me not really stepping into the leadership the way that I needed to, and
the way that you could,
or that I could,
yeah,
and that you were pushing for that. But I think, well, certainly back then, I can see it differently in hindsight. But back then, I felt like I was trying to step into my leadership, and that I was being resisted by you. Mm-hmm. And but here you are reflecting back, and your experience was that you were trying to push me into that, and maybe admittedly, not in all healthy ways, mm-hmm. but nonetheless, you were. Mm-hmm. And I think what I had to wake up to was, even though I felt like I knew I needed you to push me into, or that there was, that you had a role in pushing me into my leadership into this marriage. My take was, consciously or unconsciously, for better or worse, that you should do it in a healthy and pleasant way.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like,
that's fair.
I don't get to just have it in this, but that's the thing. I don't get to just have it in this healthy, pleasant way. And I won't even say easy, because even if it's healthy, I know that's not always easy. Mm-hmm. But even with the unhealthy ways that you were pushing me into my leadership, kind of getting back to the principle of opposites, the negative and positive aspects of ourselves, I would say now in hindsight, that was needed too. And I was getting all of you. And I don't think you were just doing it in negative, unhealthy ways. I think mm-hmm. you were also doing it in positive ways. But all I could see was the negative ways, mm-hmm. or how you might be resisting me,
Yeah.
So I think the point I'm trying to make is that, for better or worse, it's important to take all of that as inspiration, as difficult as it might be to be inspired by, I don't know, your shadow side. Mm-hmm. So certainly not easy to see that in the moment. And, mm-hmm. We want to deny the shadow, not only in ourselves, but in other people, especially our spouse, I'm sure. And so I certainly didn't want to have to contend with your shadow side and your efforts to push me into my leadership. But crazy to say maybe, but it's like I needed that shadow side of you, in some sense, pushing me in those unhealthy ways too, because mm-hmm. that's who you were at that point, mm-hmm. Positive and negative. Mm-hmm. And you were how would I say that? It's you didn't leave. Mm-hmm. And I think you're the kind of person in a lot of ways who is all or nothing. And as chaotic as our marriage had gotten at that point, you didn't leave. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it also meant that since you're here, you're going to be all in here, and you are all in with all of you the dark and the light.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't wish that on anyone in some sense, but it's like, if it weren't for your shadow side with the way that you were pushing me in my leadership, I don't think that I would have the leadership that I do now.